Hi, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome here. In this video, I'm going to be showing us about mathematical functions in DAX. I'm going to be introducing us to mathematical functions in DAX, which we are going to be using with our explicit measures. Okay, let's go. So what are the basic mathematical functions that we have? We have sum, average, mean, and max. We should note that these are the very basic ones. We have a lot of others, but these ones are used for aggregation. And they only work on numeric columns, which means that when you have values like revenue, like GDP, profit, discount, that is when you can use mathematical functions like this. And we also have some other ones, which are counting functions. So basically, when you want to count, you use them like count A, count blanks, distinct count rows. And we should know that our count rows, it counts every rows in a particular table, not column exactly. It counts all the rows in a particular column, so in a particular table. So what we have now is that our count rows is going to count the blank columns, the blank rows, and the rows that have what? That have something them, that have a value in them. So that is what counting is about. And also sometimes we also have logical function that we can use. We have if error. So we can also use if and if error as a logical function. But this if and if error, sometimes we may do without them. In the most common scenario that I have applied them, I always use a divide instead of it. And I'm going to be showing us how to do that in my video in the demo that we are going to have shortly. So it's not only if and if error that are our only logical functions. We also have and, we have or that we can use as logical functions. So it all depends on scenarios. So now let us go over to our Power BI desktop and demonstrate what I'm trying to tell us. Okay, what we can see now in this particular screen, what I can have currently now is that we can see now that I have sales, I have 2014, 2015, 2016. So what I want to do now first is I want to first of all write a measure that is going to generate my sales in last year for me. So that I'm going to find the margin between the two sales, and I'm going to find the percentage between them. So what do I do next? I just create a new measure and I write a measure that is going to generate sales last year for me. Okay. So that is what we are about to do now. And I just come over here and I have sales LY is equals to calculate and sales and previous year. And what do I put inside? The calendar, date, close brackets, enter. And once I have that, I can make it appear on this particular table that I have now. And after doing this, I am now going to show us. So we have sales LY, which is sales last year. And after doing that, I create a new measure again. So this new measure I want to do is I just want to basically subtract sales and sales LY. So I want to calculate the sales margin. So I'm going to do sales margin is equals to sales minus sales LY and enter. And I can also decide to show that over here. So now we want to calculate our sales Y-on-Y, year-on-year growth. So basically we can use if statements in this particular scenario. And why do we need an if statement? I'm going to be showing us shortly. So I'm going to come over here. I'm also going to create a new measure again. And it opens my formula bar for me. Once it opens the formula bar for me, then I can write it now. And I come over here. I have sales. So our sales Y-on-Y growth is going to be what? Sales margin all divided by sales LY, and enter. And I can now make it appear on my table. I want to make sales margin and sales Y-on-Y growth to appear on my table. So I check it over here. And I come over sales margin. I check it also. So I can actually make margin comes first. Okay, so we have it now. We can see now that we have infinity and infinity over here. Why do we have infinity? Because of this sales LY. Sales LY is what? Is 0. So we are divided by 0. It gives us infinity. We don't want to have something like this in our report. What do? We actually have two methods to solve this problem. So the first method is using if. I'm just going to say if. I'm going to edit this particular formula and say that if sales LY is not equals to 0, it should calculate this, and we leave the rest, which means otherwise blank. And that is what our if does. So I come over here and I make it appear. Once the formula processes, okay, it's appearing already. We just need to wait. And we can see now that it has disappeared. So what we can do now is to just change the format to what? To percentage. And that is how we are able to solve that particular error. But if I don't want to do it like this, I can use divide. Divide is a function that is intelligent on its own. It basically caters for the scenario when it can be equal to 0. So let us just write another one and try divide and see what divide gives us. So I create a new measure. So in my new measure that I want to create now, I want to use divide instead of if. So I'm going to say sales Y-on-Y growth, let's call it 1, is equals to divide. And what do we want to divide? Sales margin, comma, and sales last year. And we have it like this. and we press enter. And I can make it appear on my table now by checking the box in my feed list. And I can change the format to percentage. We can now see now that we have written explicit measures for some, for sales last year, for sales margin, for sales Y on Y growth. So basically, we don't need this sales margin to be in our table. We can remove it. It is just a measure that we created in order to be able to see sales Y on Y growth. And also, we can decide to use a variable in our measure that we are creating over here. But because I expect that we are just starting to learn DAX, and I'm trying to introduce it to us in a very simple approach. In some of my next video, I'm going to be showing us how we are going to be using variables in our measures. Okay, so that is about aggregation functions. We can also decide to write a what? A count function. So what we are going to do is we create a new measure again. And in the new measure, in this case now, we have a column called customers. We want to count the total number of customers we have. So we can see that some customers are repeating customers, but we want to know the total number of customers we have in our store. So what do? We can just create a measure for that. And how do we do that? We can come over here right now and say customers count. Customer count is equals to what? Count rows. I mean, distance count. Distance count. And we are going to have what inside? We are going to go into the D customer table. And we go into customer name or customer ID. So let us use customer name in this case. And we press enter. Okay, it seems we have a measure for that. So we can just come here. We can just modify the name. Customers, or number of customers. So let's call it number of customers. And it's working on it. We are going to see it appearing over here. Once it is done, we can create a card visual to see it. So we can have a card visual now. And I can have number of customers. So it's telling us that the total number of customers in this particular supermarket that we are working on is what? 793. But when we check at our value, we can see now that we have 9,994 rows, which means that the total number of transactions that we have in this particular store is what? 9,994 rows. So, but we can see now that out of these total transactions, we only have what? 796 unique customers. So what we can do now is we also want to check again. We want to demonstrate what? How to use another type of count. So what I can do now is we can create another table, or we can use this same table, but before that, we create a new measure. And we are going to have what? We are going to have the transaction. We want to count the total number of transactions in this particular store. So how do we count? How do we count total number of transactions? We are not counting the number of customers now. So we are going to see that very shortly. Okay, we are going to have a formula bar and we put the name of our measure and we are going to have transaction. Number of transaction. So we are going to use, we have several types of count A, count blank, count rows. So basically, we want to count everything in our F order table. So those are the total number of transactions we have in our store. And we put our table name inside and it counts all the rows, the blanks, and the one with values, and enter. Once we are done with that, we can now see, we want to compare 2014, 15, 16, and 17. We want to know the total number of transactions that we have. So I scroll down over here and I have my transaction count. And I'm just going to check the box I have over here to make it appear in my table. And after doing that, we can see now that I have total number of transactions and I can see that 2016, I was able to have higher number of transactions in my store. I mean, in 2017, 3,312. And that is that, about basic mathematical functions in DAX. So basically, to summarize, we have count functions, which can be count blank, count rows, distinct counts, and count A. And we also have aggregation functions, which can be sum, mean, max, average. We can always use these functions anytime we like, depending on the particular problem we want to solve. Thank you for watching this video. If you like what you have watched, let me know in the comment section, or we also like my channel and subscribe so that you can get updated once a new video is out. Thank you.